back to my channel, The Grim Reader. I am Kathy Grimm, and I'm here with a reading update, reading and other stuff to talk about. Let's get into it quickly because I try to not be too blabby. So I finished 2 books since the last time I talked to you. I did finish listening to Rebecca Solnit's wonderful collection of essays, biographical essays connected to George Orwell, connecting it to his love of his garden. But it goes in all different directions, and I don't really have a lot to say about it. It was a bit of a nostalgia trip for me because I do remember my mother talking a lot about Orwell and being kind of holding him in very high esteem, specifically his understanding of authoritarian structures, even if he himself was implicated in them. For example, when he was in Burma, and sort of needing to understand, and even kind of going to school. I think partly her hatred of her time in boarding school, I think maybe even there she was connected to his hatred of his time at Eton. He was sent to Eton even though his family wasn't that well off, and he hated it, which I can really understand. I mean, cliques and hierarchies and just kind of, I don't know, boarding school's a weird place, especially for these young people who get sent to them. And Solnit does a fantastic job of just meandering through his life and coming back and going away and going to a rose farm in Colombia. Really interesting chapter, essay, and listening to it was a delight, a pleasure. And if you're at all interested in Orwell and his life, it's a great read. And yeah, so lots of things come through. His love of British things and things like buttered toast. So he's definitely someone who's committed to his country, but wants to sort of be aware of authoritarian structures and kind of issues to do with social justice. So a great read. Highly recommend. Let's see what else happened. Then I read a book that I'll put a picture on here. It was a complete sort of, let me try one of these, because it's like a best-selling book by Nora Roberts. Let me know if you've read any. I had never read any Nora Roberts. She's written over 200 novels, I think. And so I read her latest one called Identity. I listened to it, and it was a gripping listen. It's formulaic. It's not literary, but that's not what you read Nora Roberts for. You read it to get sucked into a story, and that's exactly what happened here. The writing is adequate to what she's doing. It's borderline tropey and cliche, but okay. Now, so I guess this is almost, she's connected to the genre of romance. So there was sort of a couple of somewhat steamy scenes, which, because I'm just not used to it, they kind of felt awkward to me. But that could just be me not being used to the genre. And I mean, in a way, the romance aspect of it, it's almost like an afterthought in this novel, because it really focuses on this woman and her dealing with a psychopath and what this psychopath does to everyone. So it's like a thriller, romance, because a lot of different genres are being thrown in there. And I have to say, I thought the psychopath stuff was handled quite well. She made us kind of interested in him, even though we hate him, which is always a feat, I think. And she's actually really quite good by now. You know, she's written 200, of which they sell a lot of books. She knows what she's doing, obviously. She's writing in this set way, and she did a good job. And I don't want to get too much into the plot. I mean, it focuses on this one young woman who, what I liked about it is it's very female-centric all the way through to the very end, and which of course I liked. And also, she's a young woman who, she's really kind of very self-disciplined, almost to a fault. Like she's not lazy. She's working really hard. She has some kind of strange issues to do with her family and her upbringing, which I thought were fairly well worked out. It's almost as if I could imagine this aspects of this book being more literary, being a kind of literary exploration of how our surroundings shape us as people, and which I think is interesting. So the plot was, I mean, I think I gave it 4 stars, but for what it was almost 5 stars. I mean, and it is gripping at the end, up until the very end, even though you kind of know it's going to be resolved, you know, in a happy way. That's a bit of a giveaway, but I think with Nora, I mean, I think all of them end that way. I don't know. They maybe they're actually, I think there are trilogies and stuff, so I don't really know. See, I'm new to this type of what I would call an airport book, like a book you buy and listen to on the plane, like a good movie, like a not a great movie and a pretty sort of good Lifetime television. So tell me more about these kind of people that you've had good experiences with, because I'm kind of interested in not being complete. I like reading stuff. Anything that holds my interest, I'm going to read it. So it's definitely not Gab August thing from Criminale. I don't know where to put it, but it is formulaic. I mean, it's sort of, you can sort of tell certain tropes that come up. But for what it was, a good listen. Identity by Nora Roberts. Moving back into my wheelhouse, so to speak. Haven't done much with Nupinging. Nupinging is the kind of book where I'm savoring it. It's almost like reading a poem, so it doesn't really matter that I'm not reading it. Same like the long book that has been on my Goodreads for over a year. It's 1,000 pages long, and I've read 100 of them, by Margaret Young. But that's okay. I'm actually okay with having some books that are sort of continually not finished. It doesn't really bother me that much. Now let me see. So let me tell you. I think I'd already told you that I had started this towering work of modernist fiction by Robert Musil, The Man Without Qualities. I am putting this aside. It's not exactly a DNF, but it might be a DNF because this is the second time that I don't want to read it. And really, I think it comes down to, I have a hard time. My brain and his sentence structures are not friends. Also, it wasn't even, well, the style was one thing, but then the structure is this disaffected rich person who is kind of, and then there's sort of authorial insertions holding forth about existential topics that, and I sort of find myself reading and thinking, well, what are we actually talking about right now? What is actually going on? And does it interest me? And then it came to a chapter that's all about a man, a strange figure who brutally murders a prostitute, to the warnings. And I'm like, I'm not really here for that. I'm not here for it right now. Maybe I'm never here for it. Not that I don't recognize that he is a towering figure of modernism. So I went on I have 2 other novels, German novels here, that I've been working with. And I went on the Twitter, my Twitter addiction, to poll people if I should read Joseph Roth's Radetzky March or Hermann Broch's The Sleepwalkers. And I have them both here in German. And it was interesting to me that the poll completely went to Roth. I'm not sure why. It's just the people that chose to respond. And I will talk more about, well, both of them when this one, well, I'll talk more about them, don't worry. But so this one won, but then I connected back to someone, I don't know her name, but she goes by the handle Paper Pills, and she does a lot of Twitter read-alongs, and she even has a sort of a minimal blog where the title is Reading an Act of Shared Solitude, group reads with Paper Pills. And she kind of structures it with hashtags, and she kind of connected me and said, don't read this now, because in March 24, there's going to be a read-along on Twitter of Radetzky Marsch. In German, we say Marsch, and in English, you say Marsch. Radetzky Marsch. And so that's what I'll do. I'll read this in March 2023. It's fine. It's not that, and he's definitely more accessible than someone like Musil, I'm sure. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm putting this one aside, even though it won the poll, because we'll do it with Paper Pills and everyone else who's joining the group. If you're on Twitter and you want to read this interesting sort of somewhat canonical work of Austrian literature, a little bit earlier, no, he's kind of sort of the same time as the others, a little bit later than Musil, a little bit later, and then this was written, I don't know when this was written. When was it? 32. Oh yeah, that's kind of the same time as the other ones, as Musil and this other one. So I am reading the book. Hermann Broch, very interesting fellow, Jewish, but converted to Catholicism. So that's interesting. And then he was in the same group of friends as Musil, James Joyce, Thomas Mann, Austrian Jewish person who was, of course, forced to emigrate. He was actually even he went into prison for a little bit because of apparently owning a socialist newspaper or magazine. They found something. It's a pretense, of course. And then he went to England first, and he ended up in Princeton, I think. So with Thomas Mann and maybe even Einstein. I'll find out more. So I started this one. And this is definitely more my speed. it's more, there is stream of consciousness, and and it may get even more so, but the syntax and the way he writes is just much more, it's easy for my brain to figure out what's going on, and I am interested in what's going on. Even though I think it's also kind of a, oh my gosh, society is in a bad state. It was also written in from 28 to 31, so, modernist time period. And I think it was his first big work. It was before he emigrated. And of course, his other big work, well, not of course, but that's the one that I can't read that one until I read the Aeneid, because it's called The Death of Virgil, Tod des Vergil. And so I want to read the Aeneid before I read that one, because I'm assuming it's going to talk about what Virgil wrote. I know next to nothing about Virgil. Anyway, but I'm reading this one, and this one is all about. Well, right now I think we're in the year 1888, so we're kind of in the era of, and it also takes place in Prussia as opposed to some kind of fake Austria that this one's in. And that's also kind of I'm more interested or used to stuff taking place in Prussia than Austria even. And it's interesting because he is Austrian. He's an Austrian writer, but he's placed his story in Prussia, so that kind of connects it to people like Fontana, whose big novel I read last year. It was a novel that took place in the Napoleonic era, but it was written in the 1880s. And so that's what I'm reading. Hermann Broch's The Sleepwalker. I like saying Broch. I torture my post students with the CH sound in German, the sound. I'm so sorry. German teacher alert. Broch, Broch. It's a lovely sound, the OCH. I love it. Let's see. Anything else to report in terms of reading? Oh, my new listen. I was scrounging around for a new listen, and I decided to go. I don't have it ready. Sorry. To go with, I'm going to listen and then sometimes dip into the Trollope, Can You Forgive Her? So the first of the Palace novels. And stay tuned. I'm not exactly sure about Jane Austen July. We'll see. I'm a little over reading Jane Austen just because I read them and I feel like I've read them and I know them and I'm not that interested. Although I haven't read Sanditon. I should probably maybe look into reading something that I haven't read, like Sanditon. Maybe I'll do that. So yeah, that's in terms of my reading. The last thing I think I want to chat about is kind of like my hobbies. And I've gone back to a hobby that I had a while ago called postcrossing, where you write someone a postcard and you register a number on it, and then you get put into the system, and then someone gets your address and sends you a postcard. So it's a kind of cool system of postcard exchange, and it works really well. It does take a while, of course, because I haven't sent any yet in a while, and so now I've sent 3, I think. And I decided you can either decide to not get ones from your own country or to get ones from your own country, and I decided to get ones from the United States so that I would get them quicker. Because when you send a lot of postcards to all over the world, it takes a long time sometimes for them to get there. And of course, there's quite a few that don't arrive for whatever reasons. I've sent ones where I don't think I had put enough postage on it. So there's a fair amount of postcards that get lost. But that's sort of part of the mystique of it all. And one of the main reasons why I decided to do it again is that I'm kind of, even though I still have my journal and I'm still doing journaling stuff, I'm sort of, because I have a bit more time, I'm doing more crafty things. And there's this concept of a junk journal, which I'm not totally on board with, because it's an aesthetic to do with a kind of a messy, pretty, collagey aesthetic of making these journals with weird pieces of paper all stuck together. And it looks kind of junky, but also kind of nice. And I do like some aspects of the junk journal community and the collage, people who do collages, who have glue books and stick stuff in. And since I started to dismantle my dictionary from 1874, it kind of, I'm looking at videos of this ilk. Anyway, but got back to postcrossing. So what I'm going to do when I get the postcards is I will tip them into my actual journal. So tip in is when you take a piece of tape and you tip something into your actual journal. So you add it and make it bulkier for things. And I think doing that with the postcards will definitely make it quite bulky, but I'll never get, it'll be spaced out somewhat, so we'll see. And I wanted to show you, so this is the last one, the most recent one that I'm sending. So I'm sending this pretty card that I had to someone who said that they like deer, because you can put what you like. And I thought, well, this person probably will like this card. Hopefully will like this card of a red stag deer, and this person's in Taiwan, young woman, I think, or woman, I don't know how old. And so, and like I have another one that I have to send to Prince Edward Island, which I think is such a cool place because of Green Gables. Anyway, it's a fun hobby. So what I wanted to do, and I don't think many will take me up on the offer, but please go ahead and do so. I have 800 subscribers, which, people who, I'm going to put my email kind of in at the top of this video, so it's not that obvious. And if you send me an email, I will send you a postcard, and in terms of like a postcrossing type thing. But so, because on the postcrossing website, you can designate if you want a direct swap. So if you want to swap aside or privately, have a kind of back and forth of postcards. So if you send me an email, we can exchange postcards. So it's kind of like a mini giveaway, and you can tell me what you like, or I'll just pick one for you. I try and pick nice ones, and I will send you a postcard. And if you want, you can send me a postcard, but you don't have to. I have quite a few postcards, and I want to kind of lower the stash so that I can have more room and also maybe buy some new postcards at some point. So yeah, that's a giveaway at the end here. I think that's all I have to report, and I hope everyone's doing well. And I've been trying to watch more BookTube, and also I need to, I'm still a little behind on commenting on people's comments, so I will get to that too. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoying June, and I will see you in about a week's time. And I still have to do stationery videos too, but they'll happen when they happen. Talk to you soon, and also summer diary vlogs will happen too. So talk to you soon. Bye.